Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. A great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I love that it's like, obviously we get our alien on this episode. We'll just call him Lord Nox for short. Ends up landing on Earth, and in particular in 2045. And it's like, oh, he's after the king because, you know, it turns out like, oh, if he kills the king of this world, it'll lead to his people invading. We kind of find that out later on. But lo and behold, who's the king he sees is Shmore Money. And it's like, okay, so we're bringing this back. So it turns out he ends up killing Shmore Money, and that's obviously what kind of sets the legends off, because basically Zari's assistant brings that to her attention, like kind of like hits her up because she's trying to like hit Zari up, but Zari's kind of ignoring her phone call, so she hits up the emergency phone that Behrad has. So especially because Zari and him are like hitting it off, but it's also a thing of like, oh, you know, they're still kind of caught in the middle of like, right. At first it seemed like maybe Zari's the one that wanted more and John didn't, but it also starts seeing, as the episode progresses, we kind of realize, oh no, John kind of wants more too. They both do, but neither one is willing to take the first step, because I don't think either one of them has been in a real relationship, in the sense that a relationship where it mattered. The last relationship she was in was with Shmore Money, and he's a douchebag, so... which, hey, John's got his douchey elements. He's kind of a tosser himself, but, you know, nevertheless, they find out, like, okay, so this is about a TV show that he's on called, like, Shmore Money's on called The Throne, obviously, like, The Voice and, like, many other, like, musical shows, but obviously more so supposed to be, like, a parody of The Voice. But I love that, like, even, like, Nate's like, really? Like, reality TV's around even that far in the future? So they're planning on, like, how they're going to, like, infiltrate and kind of take this guy out. I love the fact is that, like, you know, Mick comes out of nowhere and it's like, oh, bro, you need to take a bath, you know, hygiene and everything. And he's like, yeah, like, this is a spaceship, it's not just a time ship, so why don't we go out there looking for Sarah? And you're like, oh, like, it's like, yeah, it is kind of sweet. And he's just like, I'm gonna go drink or whatever. And it's like, yeah, don't. Well, at first Spooner's like, oh, you're just gonna let him talk to you like that? She's like, I'm not gonna take it personal. It's Rory. It's like, yeah, Rory's been like that since day one. But also Nate's like, yeah, plus I think he's taking this whole thing about Sarah being going pretty hard. It's been pretty hard on him. And Ava's like, yeah, Nate, it's been hard on him. Yeah, Sarah not being around, it's definitely been hard on him. It's like, and don't worry, we'll find her. You know, I'm sure she's out there going full-blown Thor Ragnarok, kicking some alien ass. I was like, once again, the second Marvel reference, not just Marvel reference, MCU reference. The Black Panther reference that's kind of made in Batwoman could be considered like maybe a Marvel or, you know, a Marvel Comics, or it could be an MCU thing. But I feel like the fact, it's just so interesting to me. It's like, it makes sense because it's like, because for one, it's like, it's a big pop cultural thing. You can't ignore a franchise that's been going as long as the MCU is, and it has accumulated as much money as the MCU is. It's just funny that a DC property is referencing the MCU. It's kind of nuts. I mean, what I mean, because I was bringing this up during Batwoman, like last week's episode, being like, why haven't they made any references to, like, why isn't there a Man of Steel movie in the DC universe? Like, why doesn't there, like, it's just so interesting. You have rights to those properties. Someone should be like, man, that Green Arrow movie was wild. It's like, I don't know why you don't do that stuff. It's funny because you're mentioning the, like, I mean, once again, because I brought it up because there's merchandising and, like, obviously there's shirts, there's toys in, like, both the DC movies and the TV shows. Like, Shazam kind of showcases, like, there's DC merchandise in that regard. So, like, you know, because, like, there's the Aquaman t-shirt at, like, the very end. So it's like, why they don't do that? Like, you know, it's like you're giving the MCU such a big hype. It's like, why aren't there, like, even if it's movies that haven't happened or aren't real, it's like, oh my god, that Blue Beetle movie, which we do know is in the works, it was super hyped. It's like, you know, it's like, it's there for the pickings. It's just like, I'm wondering why they've never done that. Regardless, I went on a whole tangent about it last week in the Batwoman review, so I'll just leave it at that. But it just kind of gets me thinking. It's just crazy. It's like, wow, you're just like heavily dropping, like, once again, and that's not just Marvel Comics. That's the MCU specifically using the title Thor Ragnarok. That's just nuts to me. But nevertheless, kind of continuing down this route, obviously, like, Ava, Zari's trying to like lay low and stuff like that, but then she has to kind of drop her, like, so that everyone can sneak in. She has to be herself again. But obviously, John kind of immediately picks up, like, right, the fact is that she makes it seem like she doesn't need this because it, obviously, as we got introduced to this version of Zari last season, she comes off very shallow. That this is all she really cares about, and that's kind of what irks John, because for her, it's like, he's like, everything that you're doing is just for your fame and everything. You're not being your true self, because for him, it's like, I see the real you past the fame and everything. I've seen what kind of person you can be, like what you've done to help us, Yes, your socialite status kind of helps us from time to time, but you being you is what matters. That's who he's falling for, not Zari, the celebrity. It's like Zari, the woman he's kind of gotten to know and fallen for over the course of things. But obviously, once again, they're just in their bumpy road of not being able to like really talk it out. But when it comes down to it, like Lord Knox, well, for one, Saucy was killing it. It's like, oh, like they're walking in, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a banger, dude. And that was crazy. He's like, oh, that was kind of like terrible, whatever. She's like, what? That's not what you said when you saw my juicy or whatever. And it's like, whoa. I was like, wow, we're going there on the CW? Okay, I see how this is. But I mean, to be fair, I'm sure there's like always like some like crazy drama like that, kind of behind the scenes or whatever. But I love the fact is that like Nate and Derod are working together to take I believe it was them that was working together to take Knox down. And it ends up being this hype performance, and it's like, Knox, you're making it to the finals. You get the gold buzzer and everything. So at the end of the day, Zari herself has to enter the competition just so she can pretend like, oh, she's the mysterious person, and she make the mysterious like wild card singer, and it's like, oh, lo and behold, here's my boyfriend. He's like, I'm Johnny C, the he's a magician or whatever. And I love how everyone just refers to him as like, oh, he's a street magician, even though he introduced himself as like master of the dark arts. Because like Shmore Money was talking mad shit, and like John lit him up literally. And that was kind of a nice moment too, because it's like, yeah, he's talking mad crap about not just John but also Zari, and it's like, yo, don't talk about my girl like that, So at the end of the day, obviously Ava leads him back to the ship and everything, and obviously they're asking all these questions and they're trying to pump him for information. And also I love that it's like, I have like Burrell be like, whoa, what's up with my space? It's like, oh, Spooner must have made herself at home. It's like, dude, she moved around my crystals. I'm trying to gather good energy. And I love Knox being like, on my planet, we use crystals to, well, you don't have that word in your language. Procreate. It's like, okay, I love that. That's interesting. Also, he makes it clear later on, like, obviously, like, their species, it's like, oh, like, men, there is no gender thing on their planet. It's like men and women give birth. It's interesting because, like, once again, the fact that's always gotten thrown around. Actually, I've never actually looked it up myself. I want to say, was it SpongeBob? What was it that I learned? It was a cartoon I learned. Like, oh yeah, male seahorses are the ones that actually give birth, not females. Interesting tidbit of information I've always latched onto. I don't remember what cartoon it was. I've never actually looked into it myself. I don't think that's BS. I'm sure that's actually factual. I just never looked into it. I saw the cartoon years ago and I was like, oh, I took it as fact. Like I said, I don't remember what cartoon it is. If you remember what it is, maybe if I Google it, I'll probably be able to track down what it was. I don't remember the cartoon off the top of my head, but nevertheless, it was kind of something in that same vein. It was like, oh, that was interesting learning that their species like works like that. It's always interesting kind of finding out like, how different aliens handle stuff. It's like, always makes you go like, oh yeah, like humans are weird that we kind of do what we do, kind of like the way we kind of like operate in certain capacities and stuff like that, and what we do. I mean, to be fair, once again, it's like how we procreate compared to how Noxus people procreate by crystals. How that works, I don't know. But nevertheless, it's like Spooner wants to just go for the like, oh yeah, let me put you down. But it's like, no, we're not going to do that. It's like, all right, we're such low species. Like, the fact of the matter is how you prove yourself on our planet. And the Virod's like, yo, you got some pipes on you saying like, yo, you need to enter the competition. And he's like, fine, I'm going to do that. And that's how I'm going to win. And once I become king, basically, we're going to invade your planet. If you like, try to stop me now, we're going to just straight up invade your planet right now. So they have to kind of go through all of this. John gets a makeover because obviously Zari's first performance bangs, and she's able to kind of proceed forward. I was almost wondering if those girls she was up against, I was like, it kind of reminded me, it's not the same thing, and they didn't really go into it. We didn't really get to see their performance, but I was like, is that supposed to be like a Baby Metal, like, wink and nod? I don't know if I'm reading too much into it. Or am I thinking, who sings the, isn't it two ladies that sing the, like, OG Teen Titans theme song? Obviously, they use it for Teen Titans Go as well. I mean, because it's the same theme song, but I'm like, isn't that two, I know, I don't remember. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a reference to them. But like I said, was it supposed to be like a reference to Baby Metal? Not necessarily. Like I said, we didn't even really get to see their performance, but that's what it kind of made me think of. Blah, 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 blah. Where was I? Right. So John gets his makeover and everything, which for him, it's like, no, I have one look. Also, her assistant is super creepy and super shady, because I thought it was interesting. One, she's just like popping up out of nowhere, but especially later on, because like obviously John was in the interview. Obviously, he overheard Zari earlier about like telling her mom like it wasn't going to last. And I was like, oh, that's so sad. He's hearing that, and he's like, no, you know. And obviously they do the interview, and she's kind of like, oh, how we met. Like I was on this like journey to all these historical places with some friends of mine. It's like, not completely a lie. And obviously talking about how her and John met, and John just kind of gets up in the middle of it and walks away because he gets tired of it. And he kind of calls Zari out because it's like, you aren't just doing this just to save the day. You're just trying to save, because basically since she's not the face of everything, she's kind of disappeared for a while. I love even that kid at the beginning was like, oh, I thought she was in rehab. But the fact that, and maybe that in itself is a commentary on like celebrities, like how we get so like all up in their business like that. Like, oh, I thought, you know, she was in rehab, because like sadly that, you know, considering the celebrity life, that kind of, I'm sure for a lot of people that doesn't come as a surprise. It's like that world, it seems like from an outside looking in, it's like, man, Hollywood will fuck you up. It will chew you up and spit you out type of situation. It's done to many people. Sadly, we've seen it not firsthand, but you know, from a distance in more occasions than we should have. You know, it's a whole thing. I'm not going to go there, but it's just interesting to me that it's like, yeah, the kid was like, yeah, I thought she was in rehab. It's like, that's, I guess, guys, that's the go-to thing when a celebrity disappears. It's like, oh yeah, they're in rehab. They're on vacation or whatever. It's supposed to be like around with quotes. They're actually in rehab or whatever, you know, or in some sort of trouble. Yada yada yada. But so her business has kind of been suffering, and so for her it's like, yeah, I'm not only saving the world by doing this, but I'm also like helping my business at the same time, because for her it does matter. To John it may seem shallow and all this and that, but it's like it does matter to her, not just from a shallow standpoint, but it's something she built for herself. It's like when you dedicated so much time to something, it isn't just like a passing phase. It's like, no, this means a lot to me because it's my work, it's my baby, you know. So I just thought that was kind of, you know, and obviously she's kind of calling out John too, and he's just kind of like, I'm done. But obviously we end up finding out that Shmore Money gave her a song, but also ended up giving the same exact song to Knox, which is a dick move, because it's like, yeah, he's going to go first, and then she's not going to have any, because for one, it's like, oh, my ex is trying to show me up and everything. It's like, you know, it's like, nah, I'm going to put her in her place. It was petty like that. He's such a dick. I wonder will they ever do a face reveal on like what he actually looks like. Maybe not. Maybe just they want to keep the, I mean, I'm sure it's kind of, I mean, even to be fair, like other musicians who've done that, like, we all know what Deadmau5 looks like now. Like, I don't know if that was like a hidden thing or whatever. Like, you know, I mean, probably years after his face reveal or whatever, I found out what he looked like. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that was a thing of like he specifically went out of his way to never show his face, or was it a thing of just like, nah, I just do it for sets and stuff like that. But I'm very clear about who I am. I don't know. Maybe he has. I've never actually seen any Deadmau5 interviews, so I've never heard him talk about it. You know, people who are Deadmau5 fans might be more well versed in that. But nevertheless, but after hearing like, you know, Shmore Money's like deception and stuff like that, and then Knox goes on and knocks it out of the park, and it's like, yeah, singing a song that kind of has no relevance to him, because, and he also like, it's like, yeah, I've examined this world's like 500 top vocalists or whatever, and you know, he knocked it out of the park, obviously speaking, you know, singing words that had no relevance to him. They were more so for Zari, but still, because it's supposed to be about, what was it? It was about women's, like, independence, something of that nature. It was supposed to be something like that. And Constantine kind of talks her up that, that she could do this. Because actually asked the question, like, first and foremost, like, it's like, considering all the thing that they're going through right now, it's like, okay, why'd you tell your mom we wouldn't work? And she was like, wait, what? It's like, why? Is now really the time? He's like, yeah, I need to know, because for him, it's like, it's because it's like neither one of us is willing to take the first step. But for John, it's like, yeah, it's a bit scary, but the fact is he wants to give this a try. He wants, because it should be something real, because what we're feeling for each other is real, and that's why he's kind of been pushing all this, like, stuff, because Zari's kind of presenting like a fake version of himself. It's like, so at the end, he shows up, and there's like instrumentals and everything kick in as she's singing, and I think she showcases the real her to the world, I thought it was a beautiful moment, and ekes it out in the end and ends up winning. So that was awesome. I also love they're like, oh, he's like, that's a S'more Money imposter, and it's like, oh, drama. Oh, well, let's determine our winner. It's like, yeah, we're not going to get too stressed about that because it's television and drama is good. Nevertheless, that kind of worked out, and obviously Knox comes over and bows down. And it's like, I serve you, Lord Z. I was like, oh, that'd be pretty dope. It's like, well, you get your people to leave, but also it's like, hey, we have an alien to kind of serve us. Plus, maybe he'll point us in the right direction about Sarah. We'll never know. We'll get to that in a second. Because another side of the episode is Spooner kind of grilling Rory, and she brings up a point of like, I get it, you're one of the last OGs of the team. It's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, haircut got hitched, and Sarah is, got kidnapped. He's like, yeah, but I don't care. It's like, because Mick does care, because the fact of the matter is, and it comes up later on, because like for him, it's like, it's his family. Like, the Legends are the closest thing he's had to a family in a very long time. He'd never want to admit it. Maybe by the end of this, he will admit it. But yeah, like, they're the closest thing he's had to a family for a long time, and that family is, like, slipping away. Like, the OG team was, like, the first group of people. He didn't feel like a misfit anymore. He felt like he found a place where he belonged, and those people are going. And now that Sarah's going, it's like the attachment he had, like, that original, like, at the very least, having other people around, like Sarah being gone is like the last tie to like feeling like he belongs. Because yeah, there's his other people, but he still just doesn't have that same connection with them without Sarah there to kind of balance it out. Because we also find out like later on he's talking to Ava, because at first he activates some weapons. It's like, yeah, some OG stuff that only like some stuff only OG Legends know about. He set up a weapon to target the alien, but he's like, yo, my people are here, we're ready to blast you. And it's like, oh, well, the Earth was doomed anyway. He just kind of walks away, and Ava confronts him, and he's like, basically Layla is kind of, his daughter's all like not communicating with him as much as right, she's at college, and I don't get to hear from her as much because she ignores my calls, and when she does, she's whispering, she's hanging around with boys. It's like he's feeling like the connections he's having are kind of like being pulled away from him. That being like the Legends, like his life, like his real tie to the Legends are the OGs, and Ray is gone now, and now we have Sarah being kidnapped. He feels a little lost, especially because now it's like, oh, he found a connection with his daughter. Like, both families he feels are kind of being pulled away from him, and he kind of feels a little lost. But Ava's like, I get it, you're feeling the way you do, because he was saying like, if you were kidnapped, Sarah would be doing everything she could to get back. It's like, I get it, you're sad, I miss Sarah too, but the fact of the matter is, kind of without saying it, she's like, Rory, get your shit together. So, and kind of, you need to stop drinking and take a damn bath, like better hygiene. So she was able to kind of kick him into play. Obviously, Zari calls Constantine her boyfriend. He's like, yeah, a weaker man would buckle under hearing that. And she's like, you're scared, aren't you? He's like, oh, terrified. And she's like, yeah, me too. And it's like, oh. And so I love that we get this moment of the alien presents himself, and it's like, he's so adorable. It's actually super cute. He's like a little alien inside. There's I'm going to butcher it. I can never remember the series name. It has been animated, but it's a manga where basically this dude gets surrounded by all these like creatures. Like, one of the first people he meets is a vampire. He meets a werewolf, and he also meets an alien. It's kind of like a harem romance comedy series. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But one of the characters, the alien, she's like that. Basically, she's walking around in a giant, like a human-looking version of herself. She's kind of similar, like her outer exterior looks like a normal high school student, but on the inside, it's like piloting isn't a small alien version that looks like the outside. So it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Also, some very easier example that would have been to go to is like some very Men in Black stuff. We already know the deal. That would have been the easiest thing, because I was about to say, I think that's a Sony property. I was about to say, is that a Warner? No, it is a Warner Brothers property, isn't it? Men in Black? Maybe? I don't remember. Because didn't they say there was like some... I think I heard some people say, wasn't there some Men in Black references in the Space Jam 2 trailer? Like I said, I swear that's a Sony property. I don't think that's a WB property. Regardless. But it's like he's having this cute... It's like, yeah, and it's like, it's so adorable. Spooner immediately want to shoot him, and it's like, nope, but... Sadly, Mick shows up and kills him. I'm like, no! That's not right. That's not fair. Damn it, he was so cute. He could have been helpful. It was like, it was all for nothing. I mean, I guess Spooner's kind of happy. He's like, one more dead alien. It's like, jeez. But Mick is like, yeah, like, we got to find this alien, Kayla. She might be our best way to finding Sarah. And Ava's like, actually, excellent idea, Roy. He's like, thanks. So I think we're going to see him be in better shape going forward throughout the season. But it's definitely going to be interesting when we meet Kayla, because I think they're going to humanify her. Like, she's going to put on, like, they're going to give her Gary's glasses. No. Oh, God. I forgot. If she has Gary's glasses, she's just going to look like Gary. That'd be the best if they just, like, make her look like Gary. Because it's, like, the only way they can communicate with her is if she looks like she's in a human form. I don't see her just taking, not unless she has some device of her own to make her look human. It's going to be interesting. We're like, yeah, Gary's my fiance. Wait, what? Yeah, we were engaged. It's like, dude, that's so dope. If, like, Gary's with Sarah and obviously Kayla's with it. I want to see where that story goes. I hope... Either way, it'd be interesting if she found another means of looking like someone else, but it'd be kind of funny, too, if she looked like Gary the entire time, because the only way to get her to be able to talk in a language they could understand is if, like, they put the glasses on her and she looks like Gary. That'd be the best, too. I don't know. I'm curious to see how they handle that. So, there's that side of things. And then on the Sarah and Gary side of things, it's like, Gary's trying to, look after Sarah. It's like, right, they're coming, and she's like, the only way we're going to make it through is if you... fight. He's like, what? I'm not a fighter. She's like, Kayla didn't do much fighting against Spartacus. It's like, he's like, no, I can't eat. It's like, you're going to. She's like, to get to where I am now, I've had to do a lot of bad stuff, but I've been able to kind of, at the end of it all, it's all been worthwhile because it brought me to Ava, and I'm going to get my way back to her. So we see later on, Gary starts eating the people, throwing them around. It's like, yeah, Gary! And obviously Sarah's a little sick by the fact is that Gary's just like swallowing these people whole. And then all of a sudden he sees she's kind of like from the poison or whatever, she's seeing Ava, and it's like following her. I was like, oh boy, it's like, and then like I was like, but who are these people going to be? Are they going to be amassed to be someone interesting? And then we get the reveal where it's like, it's Ava clones. I was like, what? And he was like, no. He's like, we landed on a planet full of Ava clones. No, why did you taste so good? It's like, oh, dude, this is Gary's worst nightmare because he adores and loves Ava. Like, oh, this is the worst, But I love that Sarah's following the clone and everything, and eventually she's like, you think I don't know my Ava? And knocks the clone out. Obviously, like, her poison situation is making her see her Ava. Who knows, maybe that's the point. Maybe that was kind of planned. Maybe it's an unintentional side effect. That it kind of worked out in this clone's favor that she was seeing Ava instead of it for what it really was. Which I think is interesting for them to bring back the clone angle, because obviously it's a big no-no when it comes to Ava having the C word brought up. But I'm curious, like, they haven't done anything with that for a while. Wasn't like season 4 like the last time I don't think they touched on it at all last season. Maybe they did. I don't remember. Like, I think other than her saying, like, yeah, don't say the C word, I think that's about it. Like, other than that, they never really dabbled in the clone stuff. So, bringing that back. The fact is that there is a whole bunch of them here on this planet. And also, it seems like the guy who has been looking for Sarah for a very long time has them too. I think maybe that speaks volumes. I wonder if he's some kind of time traveler in his own right. Because the clones are on Earth, but Earth from the future. So, like, and for him to know about Sarah too, like there's something there. So what that is necessarily, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. I am so curious to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.